Social media came abuzz last week when a video emerged of Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa expressing his concern to Russia's President Vladimir Putin regarding the preferential treatment Western nations gave to Zambia through military and financial aid. Mnangagwa, who is set to take over the SADC chairmanship this year, insinuated that Zambia is a Western puppet that Moscow must combat. Now, in a meeting with Putin at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in Russia, Mnangagwa said the United States is consolidating its power in Zambia to isolate Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, Zambians have expressed disappointment in Mnangagwa and called him an irresponsible leader. Zambia and several African countries are close to the U.S. and other Western democracies, while Zimbabwe and South Africa are allies of China and Russia, which are under authoritarian governments.
Just began consolidating their power in Zambia, our next neighbor. You know, there was a time when Zambia and Zimbabwe won. It was called Northern and Southern Rhodesia. It was won by the British, but we are now separate. And the Americans are consolidating their power in that country, both in terms of security and in terms of financial support to Zambia, to make sure that we feel lonely. But that will not change us, because we have taken a course which, as a people, that we feel we want.
To discuss this, we're joined by two gentlemen. A political analyst, Edwin Yingi. He joins us from Gauteng, South Africa. And also joining us for more on this is an activist, Joseph Kalibwe. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us at this time. All right, let's begin with you, Edwin.
Thank you.
All right, let's begin with you, Edwin. Now, what do you think motivated President Mnangagwa to inform President Putin, that Zambia is a security threat, and how does this reflect on Zimbabwe's relationship with its regional neighbors?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. I would start by saying that this attitude of President Mnangagwa and his utterances to his worst, President Putin of Russia, is an indication of the failure of his re-engagement with the West. When President Mnangagwa took over in 2018, he embarked on what he called re-engagement with the West and with the United States of America. He made efforts to have sanctions removed by the United States, and also have sanctions removed by the European Union, and also to have him readmitted in the Commonwealth. And those efforts have not produced any meaningful results. And now he is going back to the East. He is trying to consolidate his relations with the East. So that is the first reason. The second reason is that President Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF party seem to be losing friends in the region. And the immediate trigger to his behavior is the loss of elections in South Africa by the ANC. ANC has been a very strong backer of the regime in Zimbabwe. And
all
now
right,
that
Edwin,
the ANC has lost...
Edwin, just a minute. Let's hear from Joseph there. Now, Joseph, could you tell us how have Zimbabweans, that's Zambians, I beg your pardon, responded to the news of their neighbor, Zimbabwe, labeling them a security threat? Are there any concerns or anxieties about the implications of this move?
Well, of course, so many people in our country are concerned, because our nation has always stood firm to ensure that we protect our integrity, and that we help ensure that Zambia becomes a beacon of peace, as it has always been. And so when you get accused of things that have no baseline of facts whatsoever, it's a source of concern, because if you look closely, over many years, our nation has been peaceful. We have always advocated for peace. And so those remarks that we watched in that clip were very, very unfortunate. And our people are concerned because there's been a lot of attacks coming from the other side over the past months. This is not the first time. There's been a lot of untold attacks and threats coming from the regime in Harare on our leadership in Lusaka, which is very unfortunate.
Okay. Now, back to you, Edwin. Now, just before Joseph spoke, you were talking to us about some of the reasons why, Zambia would be labeled as a threat. But how do you think that this development will impact diplomatic ties between Zambia and Zimbabwe? And what do you think would be the potential consequences for regional cooperation?
To answer your question, I would say this is not the first time we have seen the falling out of or the diplomatic fallout between Zambia and Zimbabwe in recent years. Just last year, there was a bit of a fallout when Zimbabwe had its elections, and a report by the SADC head of electoral observation mission was very scathing to the elections in Zimbabwe, and that created a serious diplomatic friction between Zimbabwe and Zambia. So this is not the first time, and the implications of this recent event, I see tensions going up. We are having a SADC. We are having a SADC conference coming in August, and in Zimbabwe, and President Mnangagwa is taking over the chairmanship of SADC as from August 2024. So I see tensions rising between the two countries, given the latest events. But this is not the first time. Since last year, we have had such kind of friction between the two countries.
All right, back to you now, Joseph. Now tell us, do you believe that Zambia's decision to allow a military base on its soil was a legitimate move, and or do you think it actually created some tension between, its neighbors, or is creating tension between its neighbors?
Well, first of all, let me correct the narrative that Zambia has allowed a base in its territory. That is not true. That is the misinformation that is being spread by our opponents, particularly those that feel Zambia is more aligned to the West. There's no military base in our country. It has never existed, and it will never exist. The only military bases that are in Zambia are the Zambia Army military bases. There's no military base of foreign nationals or foreign countries in our country. So I wanted to correct that narrative. Right. There's nothing like a U.S. military base in Zambia. And even from the very beginning, we've always stated that that does not exist, and is purely political propaganda being spread by those that seek to see us fail.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that correction. Now, Edwin, talking about the move by President Mnangagwa, would you say it is a sign of increased tension, following the disputed elections? Because you were actually talking about the elections in South Africa. Would you say that, it is a sign following disputed elections by the leader of election observer from Zambia? And how might it affect the Southern African development community as a whole?
I would say
Hello. Okay, Edwin, we seem to have network issues with you. So thank you so much, Edwin. But then let's wrap it up with Joseph here. Now, how does this development, Joseph, affect Zambians' perception of their relationship with Zimbabwe? Because you did say earlier that it has caused, a bit of tension with Zambians, particularly in terms of trust and also cooperation of both countries.
Well, first of all, let me say it very explicitly that Zambia does not have any ill feelings. Our people in Zambia don't have any ill feelings in terms of what is being said. if you look very closely, Zambians don't even respond to so many things that is being said by the Zimbabweans. They're the ones who say things every single time. They attack our president, they attack Zambians. They say so many things. And in return, what have we done? Zambians have not responded. They don't respond to that because we believe in peace. And we think having to respond to baseless arguments and claims could lead to further tension, and we cannot be able to do that. So, like I said, we have been very clear, and we've not been responsive to all the things that have been said. Let me be also very clear that the video that came out, the government said they're studying the video and they want to confirm whether the video is original or not. That is what was said by the ambassador of Zambia to Zimbabwe, and we're hoping that we can come to a conclusive end, unlike the threats and the political arguments that are coming from the other end.
All right, well, thank you so much, Joseph, for your time. And thank you so much, Edwin. I can see we have you back.